You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 64 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. He's the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, Matt Lowe.
What up?
She's the writer, blogger, reporter, TV personality, and the brains of this podcast, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hey, hey.
Matt, how was your 4 weeks or whatever it's been since you've been here?
Man, busy. Just everything about my life is crazy busy. But it's good. I'm not real thrilled with the weather lately, though. It's hot.
You're an awful human being.
Right,
Jessica?
I'm fat, too, so...
I am pleased with the weather, other than the fact that the grass grows faster than, humanly possible to maintain in a reasonable manner. Today I mowed a meadow. Because grass is growing so fast.
Did you say you mowed a meadow?
Yeah, it was almost as high as the front end of the mower in a couple places. Well, not around my house. My house is clean and I keep that. I'll hurry and do that if I have to, but I have a big field behind my house and it just got out of hand and I kept neglecting it and I'm I'll do it next weekend, and then it would rain. And then it would rain
right.
all week. And then I'd be I'll do it Saturday. And then it would rain. And then it would rain all week. And so I went out there today and it was up over my feet at the mower when I'm riding. It was bad.
Yeah, my yard guy retired and I waited till the season to find one and they stopped returning phone calls.
Right.
And I gave my mower away some years ago.
Uh-oh.
So I'm that guy in the neighborhood right now.
Man, you get a push mower for $100 at Walmart.
I could. Or I can get somebody out here to mow it and pay them.
Right. How much you paying? I got a push mower and a bunch of kids.
You do have you got a gimpy one right now.
Yeah, dude. But he's not the one that cuts the grass anymore.
Oh,
He's fixing to leave, so the fixing to be 13-year-old is who has graduated to doing yard work.
Is there a ceremonial handing of the weed eater?
Well, the biggest thing is once it's summertime and they're on grass duty, because cutting the grass sucks, right? I mean, that's why I don't do it. They get pulled out of the chore rotation for all the other chores. So there's no more doing dishes or cleaning bathrooms or folding laundry or any of that stuff. So that's the one plus side to it is they have 2 hours of hot, nasty work to cut the front and backyard and get it weed eated.
You're describing a prison.
And then
if they're on road detail, they don't have to work in the laundry that day.
I mean, I didn't say this is. We always say that this is a dictatorship here.
Speaking of prison,
You have no rights.
step on my transition. A federal court rules jails must give inmate addiction treatment. And this really sets a precedent.
Why does that set a precedent?
Because they currently don't provide any of them. No one does. They just make
But they give them every other kind of treatment.
They do.
So I guess I just don't understand why addiction would be that. I mean, other than, I guess you're already in jail. It's, here, go do your DTs over there in the padded cell. But
So when I saw the headline and then I read the article, I was like, this is probably the least of our worries and one of the things that I would argue against minimally, because if somebody, especially like in this case, and of course they're not all like this, but the case that set the ruling is this woman who has been on treatment for 5 years and she's been clean the entire time. And I feel like she had, I think, what was it, like an 8-day sentence or something, or a 40-day sentence? I don't know. She ended up serving like only a couple weeks, but I don't think that it's worth sacrificing all of that just for a minor petty crime that she has to spend some nights in jail for. My only concern is, of course, abuse, because, you know, I mean, it's some of, like, in some senses, it's methadone for some people, and you don't want people going to jail and committing crimes just so they can get something that is otherwise kind of expensive. That would be my only concern. But like I said, like, it's not that bad of a thing. Like, if we're going to pay for transgender drugs for transitioning, and we're going to pay for, you know, other elective things, this does not seem, it pales in comparison, in my opinion.
Well, I think you make a really important point with it. She was already in treatment and prescribed this medication. And from what I understand, this stuff is like taking Narcan in advance. The opiates don't do you any good, so it helps with the treatment. It not only helps with the urges, but if you were to go and eat some pills, it wouldn't help you any. It kind of keeps you on a baseline. And I think it does work somewhat for pain control. And addicts do traffic this stuff, because if you're in DTs, you can take one of these and come out of it.
Yeah.
But they traffic everything in prison.
They do, and like, you know, if as long as their policy is not to, it doesn't become, because especially for jails as opposed to prisons, like jails I don't think could afford the cost of, you know, people coming in and out and handling this, especially, I don't know, I don't agree with that, but like you said, she was in treatment, and it was something, like, I think that jails and prisons alike have a duty if somebody is on a medication when they are incarcerated or sentenced, they have a duty to continue that.
Right. I would agree with that.
And I was having a conversation with someone else about it. Like, if it's really that big of a deal, like, reform the system and have them work to cover costs of things like this, instead of pretending like, you know, their pay is worth 17 cents and they can buy a pack of ramen. Like, actually reform the system and put these people to work while they're in there and make her cover the cost, if your concern is actually cost.
Right. I mean, who's paying for the meds outside? Is it her, or is she on Medicaid?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's an interesting point, is someone who's already in the system, we probably are already paying for their meds in one form or another. But that's neither here nor there. They're causing harm to the woman, right, by causing her to go into withdrawal. And this is not, she's a pillhead when she got picked up and they're putting her into withdrawal. She's on a prescribed medication. No different from being, they obviously don't give you antipsychotics in a giant pill and you just go take it to your cell and do whatever with it. No, it's a controlled, I assume.
It is.
At least you walk up to whatever window and they identify who you are. You get your one pill that you take that morning, you take it, and that's what you get for. It's not like you are handed a 30-day supply like you went to the pharmacy.
Right.
So this idea of trafficking it, yeah, could you, I guess, stick it under your tongue and hide it, and then, you know, I guess you could, but I don't know anybody who would want to go into withdrawal. Opiate withdrawal particularly is unappealing from what I understand.
Well, and this is I think a complex issue for some people. Like, they don't see, there's so many people who see addiction as a choice and not a disease and not something that can be, you know, treated or healed or whatever, however you want to word it. But like, availability of medication and consistency of medication in jails and prisons is a huge problem. I did some work on some justice reform stuff a few years ago within the Department of Corrections, and so I'm in some groups actually on social media of family members who have people that are incarcerated. And I can't tell you, like, even just last weekend, I had a woman reach out because her daughter is in a prison and she's bipolar and she's on lithium, and they don't consistently give her lithium, and she's all over the place, and it makes her condition way worse, and she can't stabilize, and so she can't get any hearings for parole or anything like that. And, you know, whether you think that addiction falls in line with mental health or not, like, they have a duty to at least keep you stable. They can't let you out worse than when you came in simply because they want
right.
simply because they want to withhold stuff. And it's a big problem. And so I hope that the case, like, just on its face, helps with people in treatment, but also from a standpoint of, like, stop hurting people. Stop making their lives worse.
Well, I think it'd be a lot more expensive to deal with somebody who is going into a opiate withdrawal crisis, who's going to take up a bed in the infirmary. You can't just let the person, you know, who can't lift their head out in Gen Pop. They're a possible victim. As far as the addiction being a choice, often so is diabetes.
Sure.
You know, other than childhood onset and gestational diabetes, but adult onset diabetes is you ate too many Twinkies. And so if we're going to say that we're just not going to cover anything that's a choice, I guess they don't get their insulin. Well, if you have this problem in South Carolina, you can go to a tort attorney. Sink Jr. or Sink Sr. Father is suing the son.
Who's also an attorney.
Who's also an attorney. I mean, it's so beautiful. So the son comes out of law school, Sink Jr., George Sink Jr., comes out of law school, goes to work for dad. I guess he works for dad for a year and a half. And then for whatever reason, his father says he was let go, but he goes his separate way and wants to use his name, George Sink, and his father is suing him for it.
I love this story. He practices in Georgia too, which is how I found the article. Or they both do, I guess, but I love it. I think it's fantastic that they're suing him over a name he gave him.
Right? That's hilarious.
Only lawyers. And, I mean, he's suing him alleging, what? Trademark infringement, unfair competition, cyber squatting, unfair trade practice, and dilution. Well,
man, this is just lawyers being lawyers.
I was about to say, Thanksgiving may be a little tense this year, kids.
Well,
Right.
I think it was already tense because they fired him last year. So, I mean, I think they've been on the rocks. No kidding, like, the son is totally doing this to spike the ball in his dad's face. Like, of course. But, I mean, can you tell someone they can't use their name?
Apparently, I bet you can.
Right. We're about to find out.
Seniors, George Sr. claims that his son has always gone by his middle name, which is Theodore, and he goes by Ted or Teddy. Social media, he goes by Ted. But that didn't keep his father from running commercials with the father and son saying, I'm George Sink Sr., I'm George Sink Jr., and we're going to, whatever it is, we're on your side. And I think their tagline is their phone number is just like all nines or something like that because, because numbers are hard and whatnot.
Right.
Well, I hope George prevails.
taking a stand.
He will.
Yeah.
Well, what will be interesting is to find out that South Carolina upholds it and Georgia does not.
Right.
That would be fun.
And it being the World Wide Web, have us a little civil war over the interwebs.
They should give them each one state.
You get South Carolina, you get Georgia.
Right.
Play rock, paper, scissors. Who gets first choice? Yeah, I tell you, there's not a whole lot to say on it because it's one of those things where you kind of scratch your head like, I thought my family was messed up.
Right? I mean, it's like, I want to have a whole lot of opinions about it, but I don't because they're lawyers, and who cares?
It's just funny. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just
right.
funny.
Comical.
It is, and I'm interested to see what happens in the court and how far they push it, how far they go to, how much money they spend to see who gets the rights to his name. And does he have to?
I bet they'll just make the junior, put junior on his thing and be done.
And people wouldn't even really notice if that was what he did,
Right.
What's funny is that, he's not dying or anything, but the dad obviously doesn't have that much time left for the name. So he's, as compared to the son.
Right.
So it's worth more. It's more of a value to the son. Unless they both just destroy each other in this suit publicly and privately. And then there's no use for either.
But firms keep lawyers' names for... my divorce attorney was Smith, Barnes, and...
Noble?
Nah, I can picture the guy. I can't think of his last name. And it was George Smith, who I'm pretty sure is dead. But, the guy they named all kinds of stuff after because he was a judge and a state rep or a governor or something. They named some state parks after him. And then Barnes was Roy Barnes. None of them are associated with that law firm anymore.
Right.
I want to see the ad if the father wins. Say, this is the lawyer you want. He took his own son name away from him.
And if the son wins, then he stole his dad's livelihood that he's worked for his entire life. The narrative is just fantastic.
I will do anything to win.
I don't care who wins. I just want whoever loses to do an ad with a violin playing.
Unfortunately, it's not politics. You probably won't see anything like that.
Browning, that's it.
Oh, thank God. We were on the edge of our seats, wondering who the hell your divorce attorney was. That's the type of commentary right there that we're lucky to have.
Zip it, Dave.
To deport you.
I'm not on food stamps.
Yeah, but you get a public benefit.
Yeah, you and your 7 kids.
No, your public land. You take more from the state than any of us.
You get that same benefit. Mm-mm. And that's a federal thing, not a state.
I decline it. Oh, food stamps are technically a federal thing.
Are they?
Trump considering deporting refugees who use Medicaid. Food stamps, housing aid, and Medicaid. So the current rule is some low-income, permanent legal residents who use public benefits within 5 years of their arrival could be technically subject to deportation. This rarely happens in this practice. The new rule, if enacted, could allow the government to remove newly arrived refugees and immigrant veterans who are currently allowed to receive benefits if they become public charges.
I was surprised to learn that this impacts green card holders because I feel like almost everyone would classify them as harmless or legitimate because they're green card holders. No one, if someone says, oh, they have a green card, everyone's just okay. Like it's not really a point of contention until they overstay or don't do what they're supposed to or commit a crime.
Well, even with the green card, I think the point is you're not going to come here to be a taker.
I agree with that concept. I support revoking all benefits.
For everyone.
Yeah, so it's not like, I'm not anti-refugee, I'm anti-government help, but it's just interesting that...
I think... I'm from the perspective that, we should just get rid of it for everyone altogether, but since that's not going to happen.
Right.
People that would be classified as a refugee likely left their homes with whatever they could carry, and that was it. And I don't know, man. I think I'm okay with them getting Medicaid and housing aid and food stamps. Now, I think there should be a time limit on it, but we're talking about people that maybe didn't want to leave their home. Because, to get refugee status, like, there's a process for that, and usually the country you're in is war-torn. And so...
Well, how many countries do you pass through as a refugee? A true refugee status would be Mexicans who are running from war, which there isn't, or Canadians.
Well...
Because you've got to pass through other free nations to get to us.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's really about being a refugee...
The way that you go about... Have you ever, studied up how you become a true... you don't just show up at the border down there and claim your refugee status. You have to... It actually starts with a private firm. Is where that starts at. And you go through this whole process, and then it ends up with the State Department. And then once you're here... and there's no... I don't know how they pick what country you go to, but the refugee doesn't. It's done through whatever that firm is that works with the various nations that will take refugees. And I guess it's kind of a lottery system as to where you go. And then once you get here,
you're talking about legitimate refugees that go into a refugee camp.
Yeah.
You're talking about orphans and widows.
Correct.
You're not talking about people who hop the border, put their hands up and say, I'm a refugee.
No, those aren't refugees. Those are border jumpers.
Right. And the same thing I said about the Syrian men. Men of fighting age are not refugees. They're cowards or insurgents.
I don't know, man. If we decided to pick a fight with Mexico and they started romping on us, that ain't my fight. I'm leaving. I ain't start that war.
It ain't me. I ain't no senator's son.
Nope.
Matt's running from the Mexican army.
Right.
Didn't they just disarm some of us?
Well, I just use Mexico because they're right next door.
Well, or the Canadians.
Right.
Surrender, eh?
Another part of the article, it was saying that the rule is been used in the past, primarily for people who are ordered to repay the government for those services and then didn't, and so then they were deported. Do they mean because someone committed a crime or they weren't qualified to receive them, or what? Why would you be ordered to repay?
They could have obtained the benefits under false pretenses. I know now that if you go get Medicaid or whatever, and then they figure out or whatever that you had the means to provide for your medical care or your own private insurance or whatever, they will make you repay that. Same for food stamps.
Does that happen often?
I don't know.
I'm not saying it hasn't, but I can't recall. I don't know that it would even hit the news because of the way that some of that's protected information, but Like, there's no statistics on that.
Right.
That I've seen.
I'm sure that
I
I don't know who, the Department of Health and Human Services or whoever with the state would be able to tell you.
That's how Russell Crowe do it once in the movie Cinderella Man.
Oh, okay.
What? I've never seen that movie.
I mean, I would support deporting citizens who take it unlawfully and don't pay it back. Like, don't just limit that to people who are from there. Get the hell out.
Deport them where?
I don't care. That's not my problem.
No, you got a bunch of countries
from us.
Bunch of countries put their finger on the nose, going, "Not it,
right.
Not it."
We're not taking the American. So, if you get deported as a citizen, do you still have to pay your exit tax?
I don't know. I'm sure they'll take it to cover the cost of the benefits they robbed us.
Will they still come after your taxes, though?
I don't know.
Because if you renounce your citizenship and move to another country, the IRS, the United States is one of the only countries on the planet that still actively goes after expats' income tax.
Don't even let us leave.
Right. Yeah, this is why I always laugh when people are like, "You don't like it? Go to Somalia." Okay, and I'll still have to pay taxes here.
If they can
They'll
get you.
literally take it. Like, that's why, several years ago, Costa Rica was the poster child for anyone who wanted to leave the country. And then they signed on to that South American banking treaty that basically lets the IRS snoop around in their bank.
There's quite a few expats down there who deal in cash.
Right.
Work for cash. I actually met an American illegal immigrant down there who was renting cabanas on the beach.
Yeah.
He was living the life, man.
Of course he is.
Now, I don't know what happens when he gets sick or needs health care or anything else, but he sits on the beach every day with a constant inflow of co-eds and rents beach chairs.
Panama. You're not far from Panama in Costa Rica, and they have... I mean, there's a Johns Hopkins and a Duke University in Panama City.
Well, yeah, it used to belong to us.
Right.
Well, we talked about lawyers, and I'll tell you, there's a special place in hell right between lawyers and child molesters for telemarketers. Lawmakers want to make it illegal to have robocalls. But should they?
Yes. Good God, yes.
I'm conflicted on this, but I'm open to having my mind changed.
No, like, there's part of me that's like, no, we don't need more government here. But then the part of me that has to reject 42 calls a day is like, please, for the love of God, make that law.
Yeah, the problem with robocalls is you don't have anybody you can cuss out.
Right? And they don't, man, because sometimes they'll hit me in the right mood and they'll be like, press 1 to be connected. And I'm like hitting 1 and they get on there. I'm like, lose my damn number. And before I even get it all out, they're like, click.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my cell phone and the business line that ring constantly. And the biggest scam is your Google Plus specialist. They say your business is not properly listed on Google. If I ever find that son of a bitch, I'll kill him. And I defy you to find 12 people that will convict me of killing a telemarketer. You want to talk about juror nullification? I'll sit right there. Yeah, I did it.
Why? He called me 42 times a day. That's why.
Because one of them needed to die, so the rest of them know not to do it.
So where are you at on that, Jessica? You said you're conflicted, but you said you're open to having your mind changed.
Yeah, so I'm conflicted because my home phone line is unlisted, and so the phone does not ring. And I don't really get a lot on my cell phone. I mean, even though my number is pretty readily available, like, it's pretty limited to, you know, like, things or people that I know or reminders from, you know, my insurance company or something stupid like that, as annoying as they may be. So I can't really like relate, although I have been around my mom's phone where it rings all the time, all day long. So I get it. But like from a private company perspective, now I understand that there is like a line for harassment, but like if you read these articles that are talking about the FCC regulations and encouraging Congress to act and stuff, like one of their arguments is that they use robocalls for fraud. Well, you don't need to change the robocall laws because there's fraud, because fraud is already illegal. Like, I just feel like the angles that we're coming at it from, or the consumer side of feeling like it's borderline harassment, you know, when somebody sends, what was it, 100 million calls, and I don't remember the time period. But that's a different angle than.
Well, I mean, they're using robocalls to get around the do not call stuff, because now it's a computer that did it, and I think it's really just they just need to find a way to update that particular law. To give you an example, I just looked through my phone. I had 17 phone calls today. 7 of them were BS calls. Mm-hmm. You know, so like a full third. Some days I don't have any legitimate phone calls other than Dave.
Which is still questionable.
Right, yeah.
But, okay, so let's say you need to close that gap for the do not call list or whatever it may be. Both of the proposals right now, whether it's amending the Trace Act, which I think is the one that you're talking about, or this new proposal, is to criminalize these things. Like, I don't want people sitting in prison or facing criminal charges and a criminal record, a federal law, by the way, because of robocalls. I'm sorry. Like,
I don't want that.
Death row.
Right, and that's what they're. I mean, Dave
put them
obviously
on death row.
Supports it. Dave, let me make a better suggestion.
I don't know.
Deport them.
You make one die, word travels. The rest may think about hitting that button.
No, I'm telling you, put them up for auction. Deport them.
Deport them.
No, change technology so that I can hit a button on my phone and send a shock through his headset. You have 5 seconds to impress me. If not, I hit the button and you get fried.
No, man, they should just have to stroke me a check for $100. If they call me and I've gone through the motions of putting my number on the do not call list, I get $100.
But do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, they're going at this from an extreme angle, and it's mostly politically driven, because I know they all get calls. I mean, our state reps talk about how people let them know that they want robocalls to stop. And so instead of being like, you know what, you're right, we need to adjust the FCC rules and we need to rein this in and make only exclusions for, you know, opt-in doctors' offices and schools or whatever, we're going to make it a criminal offense. Like, that's ridiculous. Right. And that's the only one reason they want to make it criminal is because they're dropping the ball on enforcing the civil penalties. They had $208 million in fines assessed in the last 3.5 years, and they've collected $6,700. Like, that's not our problem. Maybe if you put a little pressure on them to collect the fines.
Well, there's several problems here. One is that it's not the role of the state, because the states can't do it. If Georgia passes a law saying you can't do robocalls, you move a state over. I mean, it's not like there's a wall that keeps you from getting phone calls. The biggest problem I see is number spoofing. Yeah,
if I get a 678-939 number that calls me, I just send it to voicemail and then I block it.
My father blocked my number because somebody spoofed it and called him with it. Like, there was a point where I had to text my mother. It's like, would you please ask Dad to unblock my number?
That's funny.
But yeah, the number spoofing is fraud.
Sure.
And that's fraudulent activities. You're disguising who you are. And
so address that.
Right. Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. That's kind of my point. Is there's things that we can do here, but the other end of it is These calls are coming out of Russia. They're coming out of India. They're coming out of places where we don't have jurisdiction. So what are we going to do to them?
Right.
Well, I actually got an email like ahead of the podcast from Chris Carr's office about how Georgia joined this coalition. 42 states. Feel bad for the 8 people or the 8 states who attorney generals don't give a damn about them to go after robocalls on such a low-hanging fruit, but whatever. It's probably like the best thing Chris Carr will do for us during his tenure. But anyway, we joined this coalition to urge the FCC to take action. And I mean, you're right. Like the states can't do anything about it. And so they're basically just begging them, leave the exceptions for schools and doctors. But they said that there were 47.8 billion robocalls made in 2018, which is a 56.8% increase over the year prior, and estimated that 37% were scams related to health insurance, student loans, and easy money, tax scams, travel scams, business scams, and warranty scams, which we've all received. And they said that it resulted in $488 million in consumer losses. But again, that aspect is not like fraud and scams are already offenses that they can go after. So they need to separate the two issues, because I'm sure you guys have seen it too. Like people flip out when a candidate sends them a robocall and they're like, these are illegal, or I'm on the do not call list. And I'm like, that's not covered. A robocall can, like a political robocall is not, they can't restrict that. That's
political speech. Just
free
like
speech
the no soliciting signs. You're having a no soliciting neighborhood. You can't knock on my door. No, actually, a candidate or candidates' representatives can.
Right. I sent a robocall out when I ran, and I don't remember how many numbers it was, 1,500 or whatever. And I had one guy, and I sent it. The number that it came from was my cell phone number.
You spoofed it?
Yeah. Well, I spoofed my cell phone
I'm just
number.
kidding. It's totally legit. Yeah, I'm kidding.
But they gave me the option. They were like, you can pick whatever number, or we can just make up some random thing. I'm like, no. I was like, I wanted to come from like my number that's on the website. Blah, blah, blah. I had one guy call me back that was pissed. He's like, take my number off. I'm like, well, it doesn't really work that way, but it's the only call that's going out, so you won't be bothered again. He's like, man, I really appreciate it. And by the end of the conversation, he told me he was voting for me anyway. But.
Well, when Delvis ran, I had his kid do the robocall so people couldn't be mad. It worked.
Weaponizing the children.
Yes. Took one out of the Renee Unterman playbook.
Do you feel good about yourself?
I mean, actually, yeah, because no one called back to yell at us. So, yeah, it was quite lovely.
I would have.
Yeah, well.
The restraining order prohibits me from speaking to children over the phone.
Just listen then.
Shh.
Just take it all in. But, I mean, I get it. I get it. Again, I feel like this is another one of those things where, like, if you're somebody who doesn't have a vested interest in this, like one of the companies that does it, if you're a citizen that is lobbying to protect robocallers, like, you need some different priorities, because this isn't something I'm going to stand in the way of. I have concerns about how they're doing it, and I think they're going too far. But I hope that they don't actually criminalize it, and whatever they need to do, whatever. Like, it's, again, the least worst. We got a lot of problems in this, and one of them.
Oh, no, if you fed them to lions in a coliseum while we all watch, it wouldn't bother me at all. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have is the same thing that you've brought up, is it's already an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
We don't have...
Who's going to do this? Who's going to...
Well, we don't have the means to enforce it. There, however many millions or billions of robocalls there are, there's not enough law enforcement to handle what we have already. Now, if you want to trade off some drug laws and add some of these, absolutely. Let's take some of those DEA agents and retask them. But I really think those scams are coming from Nigeria. They're coming from India. They're coming from Russia.
Right. You bring up a good point about that. I mean, what are you going to do anyway?
Okay, here comes the old guy jokes. I play Words with Friends, which is Scrabble. And there's a chat feature on there. And, it's meant for, nice move and all that kind of stuff. But apparently there's these long scams on there where they find pictures, particularly of older women, and they start chatting and say it's the old soldier scam. I'm deployed, my wife is stuck somewhere, or I'm in the middle of a permanent change of station, and my family's stuck somewhere. I need to borrow some money and fleece typically older people for money. So it's everywhere. It's the same. It's on the interwebs. I got a blackmail email one day off my webpage that they're going to release all the webcam video on my laptop if I didn't send 5,000 in Bitcoin. They said they're going to send it to all my friends. Like, okay, well, I guess they're going to get some video of Peter Griffin walking around his house.
Right.
But people fall for it. And it's...
Well, that sucks for them, but I mean, that's a personal problem.
It is. Especially with it being in Bitcoin. It's gone. Once it goes to cyber currency, It's gone. You're not getting it back.
I mean, the idea of scams, like, I don't know. The idea, I don't know. It just gets me all... Like, I saw this article this week about this woman who, they call it confidence fraud now. Have you heard of that?
Well, yeah. That's the con man.
Yeah, and this woman never met the guy, and she sent him $200,000, and now she's upset, and he ran off with her money, and he's in, like, Argentina, and I'm like, I mean, what did you expect? Like, that's your problem. Why should we have to help you? You're stupid.
Exactly. Well, you guys have your own problems. My uncle, a Nigerian prince, recently died. And for a small transfer fee, I was able to hire an attorney in Nigeria to take care of all the paperwork, and I am waiting for my wire transfer directly into my bank.
Right. How much is it? 10 million?
It's 5 million euro. Right. So around 7.5 US. Right. But the transfer fee was only like 7,500. So it's not a big deal. I was happy to pay it. I want to make sure that attorney gets paid. Right.
No, man, I've got a...
well, especially when he's so kind to help you like that.
Exactly. To track me down. I didn't even know I was Nigerian. I did one of those DNA tests. It didn't even pop up on that.
I legitimately have a great uncle who lives out in New Mexico who I believe he was 350,000 in before he quit with one of these things. And now if you go out to Hobbs, New Mexico, Carlsbad, everything out there is all low. The car dealerships, the RV dealerships, there's a Five and Dime out there. It's all got my last because they all own everything. And he's a wealthy guy, and he just chasing more money, fell for it, and we're telling him, I'm like, dude, spend 5 seconds on Google, just humor me here and just read about it. It's a scam, I promise. No, this guy sounds legit. He's not. I swear he's not legitimate. And man, he did it. 350 grand later, he's like, he keeps asking for more money. I'm like, that's because it's a scam. And you keep giving it to him. And I'm pretty sure the only reason that he stopped giving him money is because he died.
Of embarrassment.
No, he had some, I don't remember what it was now. I mean, he was old. He's in his 70s. But I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how is somebody who has amassed the fortune that he has that damn stupid?
Well, it's the Craigslist scam. I'm going to send you a check for the car you're selling, and you're selling it for $7,500, and I send you for $10,000. Say, oh, would you mind just sending me my change?
Right.
And it turns out that the 10 grand check I sent you was bad. Now your check's good. You've wired the money back to me, and and now I can't be found.
Right.
Yeah, that's I guess that's what we're hammering on and talking about the different scams is that stuff's already illegal. So the media that's used doesn't matter. I mean, are we going to make emails illegal? Because I get just as many spam emails as anything else. I mean,
I agree with that. I get more spam emails than I get calls.
And those damn things are scams too. Phishing scams.
Viruses, they do all kinds of stuff to us.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good. I got a pretty good filter though. That runs me. I'm looking in my spam box now.
You don't have a filter at all.
Let's see.
But no, you get Chase Bank. Like I didn't know I had a Chase Bank account, or card services or whatever. Your card's being shut down, or your card was used, and click here and put in your username and password.
Right. Let me do that right away.
Right.
I got a phone call today for one that I had chosen to do business with some company that was going out of business, so they were refunding me my $299, and I just needed to give them my account number. I was like, damn, that is bold. Say that right on a recorded message.
Yeah, kindly send me your. There's there's other ones that the collection scam. We found an old collection that you had from Comcast 15 years ago, but we're willing to settle.
Right.
Like, geez, nowhere on my credit report, which is monitored.
Speaking of collections, I think I voiced, over quite a long time, especially in the beginning of this podcast when I had Frontier. And this is totally off topic, but I think it's a good story, so I'm going to interject. But Frontier was terrible service, worst ever. It would be down half the month, and they still charged me, and I canceled, and they wouldn't, even though I canceled before the next billing cycle and within 30 days of the next billing cycle, they wouldn't cancel it. They made me pay for one more month. So I was like, that's fine, I'm not paying it. And she's like, well, that's fine, we're sending you to collections. And I was like, sounds good. And they sent it to all three agencies, and I was like, whatever, I'm not paying it. You can go down on my credit report for 7 years, I don't care. If I have to get a mortgage, I'll explain. You thieves. Thieves.
I had one call me today, said they were serving me. I said, okay, let me give you my attorney's number. Well, we don't want your attorney's number. Well, if I'm going to court, that's who's going. And if, oddly enough, take it back to the story, is they want to remove the exception for debt collectors on robocalls.
I did think that was interesting. Which, I think that if you... I don't know if they should remove the exception. I think that the free market approach would be to say, when you give the hospital your phone number or a doctor or whatever, you're consenting for them to call you by any means reach you by any means possible. I don't think the government needs to.
Well, what this is in reference to, I think, is there are debt companies out there that buy up bad debt.
Sure.
They comb through the not really credit reports, but company financials say, "We'll give you pennies on the dollar." God, I'm bad at wording. And they take it and they'll send a robocall to the phone numbers on file, and the robocall will say, "Are you Matt Lowe? Yes or no?" And if you push 1, they will give private information that's meant for Matt Lowe just because someone pressed 1. That's one thing, and I'm sure part of it is there's a large portion of the electorate that has bad debt that gets annoyed because people call them and ask them to pay up. That's someone who actually has to collect on debt, the thing that people owe me. I don't know.
But why can't you just handle that from any type of contract side when you offer your phone number to a private entity? You're consenting to be called by them. Like, why do we have to make exceptions in a federal law? I don't like that.
Well, because the person who bought that debt, is not your vendor. You're not their customer.
Well, I'm sure
you're no longer in a contract with them.
You're telling me the lawyers couldn't figure out a way around that? I don't buy it.
Well, I mean, my high opinion of attorneys.
Yeah, I mean, you did rank them slightly higher than robocallers, so I'm gonna give them a little credit.
Yeah, and child molesters.
Well, technically, you said they were wedged between attorneys and child molesters, so I don't actually know if you have lawyers below robocalls.
Which order they're in.
Yeah.
I told one day when I got a call from somebody, I told him, if there's a special place in hell for telemarketers right between attorneys and child molesters, and he just kind of I shamed one day. I went like full Jewish grandmother. Like, I bet your mom's so proud of you, isn't she? This is all the work that your parents put into bringing you in this world, and this is what you choose to do, be a scumbag? Well, last week I kind of said we'd discuss a format change that's coming to the show. Matt, you want to tell us about that?
Well, I think everybody has noticed. We've talked a little bit about, that I took the role of Scoutmaster for my kids' Boy Scout troop, and then I've been absent a fair amount lately. We've decided to buy some land and build a home. And in doing that, I guess what prompted that decision is my in-laws, specifically my father-in-law. His health isn't so good, and if he takes another fall, my mother-in-law is not going to be able to deal with it a whole lot. So we're getting their house ready to put on the market, and we're buttoning up the project here in our house. We're going to sell both houses and then build. And that process has just taken a whole lot of time. And so I'm going to step away from the show for a little bit, take a leave of absence till we get that squared away. Now, of course, when you say build a house, you don't mean go out and hire a builder. No. Oh, no, we're going to do it. I mean, my father-in-law spent his career in the construction industry. He's by schooling, he's an architect. He never went and got his license, though. He did a lot of plan review and estimating for his career for big apartment complexes or hotels, projects like that. And then I've been in the construction industry for all of my career. So I figure between the two of us, we've got enough knowledge to get it done.
So have you picked out your piece of land yet?
It's possible. There's we were talking with a realtor today. There's 50 acres over in Buchanan that we're eyeballing.
Well, I'll tell you, we certainly notice the difference when you're not here.
Right?
I mean, the conversation is usually more intelligent.
Right. Oh, you, Dave.
and that we will definitely miss. But you and Jessica, the two founding members that are left on the show, and I actually started listening to the show because you and I were friends, and so wow, what the hell? I'll give them a download.
Right.
And started listening to you guys, and especially when I'm like out walking around my neighborhood, and I find myself talking to myself, talking back to you guys. Then I got my Kelly Clarkson moment. I got called up to the bigs.
Right. Well, I don't intend for this to be permanent at all, and my hope is that I'll be able to just drop in. I mean, heck, I might be here next week because nothing's going on, and I can just click into the thing and be like, "Hey, I'm here." But it just for scheduling purposes for you guys, it was just getting out of hand because I mean, even today, man, I was in Ackworth at 8:30 tonight. Got home, and of course, I just told everybody what time we're recording. But I get home, I still had three kids. Well, 2 kids and a wife that needed to eat dinner. So it was getting disruptive, I think, for everybody involved. So.
And of course, once the new house is built, you'll have more room,
right,
to have a me area.
Right.
You know, I certainly understand the chaos that goes on in your house. I have to kick my wife into the bedroom or go to my office, and Jessica just has to tell the dogs to give her her space.
Yeah, please stop breathing so loudly.
Oddly enough, the same thing I hear around here.
My wife says that to me, too.
Oh, yeah, and certainly we want you to fill in when Jessica or I are gone, which I don't think I'll be taking a vacation for quite a while.
No.
Coming into summer, being an air conditioning man.
Say, you're the AC guy. You don't get to go on vacation. Not till winter.
No. Fall. It's going to be November this year.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
We're, we got our Idaho hunting trip coming up in September.
You do. And that's certainly something we want to have a report on to make fun of you.
Right.
Walking and walking and walking.
2.5 million acres of roadless public land.
Land.
The Frank Church Wilderness in central Idaho.
Jessica, what are you going to do without Matt to kick around anymore?
She's going to have to kick you.
We talked about bringing on more guests that we really disagree with because, I mean, for the most part, unless we're talking about public land, like, the 3 of us are pretty in sync ideologically.
Right.
I mean, we can't help that you're wrong, but we're hoping to bring in some other people that are wrong so we can tell them.
Right. So if you're listening and you disagree with us, email the show, Jessica, at allogeorgia.com.
Well, here's a good reminder. Speaking of disagreeing with us, these have been our opinions, and not necessarily those of All in Georgia. No, I think it's a great idea is to bring on. I had the idea of bringing on Vernon Jones, and we might still, because he's a scrapper, man. Like most politicians have the wisdom, I guess. Discretion being the better part of valor, not to get in a Facebook fight. Oh, not Vernon. He's a guns a-blazing, buddy. Which, despite him being wrong and, missing, half the session, I respect. I respect somebody who's going to stick to their guns. So if you guys if you'd like to hear Vernon, be sure to send him an email.
vernon.jones@house.ga.gov.
And tell him how great he would be on the show. Jessica's like, no, I really don't want Vernon. No, we had the Democrat who was running for District 19 on. Unfortunately, Matt had a flood, and her audio was less than ideal. So that's something we're gonna have to work out on a logistics, and is making sure that they have a proper microphone and can broadcast at the high level of professionalism that we exhibit here. Which is basically the Ford Pinto of audio. Jessica, do you have any closing thoughts?
We have a good editor.
We really do. I mean, we do that. That poor guy. He has to listen to every word we say like several times. Think about that. Some weeks are harder than others.
Do I have any closing thoughts? I just don't want to miss the opportunity to bring up what happened in Hoshton in Jackson County in Georgia, where the mayor Teresa Kennerly announced in executive session and then out in the parking lot that they axed a guy who was a contender for city administrator because he's black, and that the city wasn't ready for that. And then her council member friend was like, here, hold my beer, let me one-up you on ridiculousness. Jim Cleveland was like quoted publicly to the paper saying, I have black friends, I hired black people, but when it comes to all the stuff on TV, when you see blacks and whites together, it makes my blood boil because that's just not the Christian way to live, I suppose. I just want to thank them for, local governments do such a great job of putting Georgia on the map for the rest of the nation, and I hope they're enjoying all the harassing calls they're getting, and their website crashed because everyone was trying to go to it, and they're being inundated with open records requests, and, while they're living in the 1960s, the accountability level that's offered in 2019 is alive and well, and so...
But really, what do you expect from a guy that goes to a meeting in his Harley-Davidson hat?
I've seen worse, but I won't go there tonight.
This coming from the planning czar who wears a T-shirt with sunglasses on his head.
That's right. I'm not elected.
that makes it so much better.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. As far as a farewell to Matt goes,
Such a tearful goodbye. No, the Houston thing. I was reading that last week. Actually, when our last show dropped, same day, I was sitting there reading the article on my phone that she posted up there, and her stuff was bad enough. I'm like, what she said was, "I'm not racist. I think he'd be just fine as a black guy. But all those people, they must be the racist because I don't think they're ready to see a black guy in charge." And then I read the quote that you were talking about. It sounded like, I don't even know. I don't know who he thought his audience was. I don't know if he was just running off of the mouth. It's one of those things where I just facepalmed as Georgia being my adopted state. It's like, oh God, and Houston is Metro Atlanta.
it's right outside of Gwinnett.
I mean, yeah, it's not far from Chateau Elan. I mean, this is not
really, man. I thought that was down around your area, the state, Jessica.
No, we just break the laws down here.
No, they grow wine. It has to be up north. No, if it was like Spit Cup, Georgia, down by where Jessica is, I might understand it. Like, oh, those people down there don't really know what century it is. Like, I mean, you can't even excuse somebody having a private conversation, but to talk to the press like that. And then the mayor got an executive session. I guess she just thought everybody thought like she did. It's like the old joke. It's a visual joke, which is great for radio. How does every racist joke start? And you look over each shoulder. Right. You know what? On one hand, it was really, really dumb. On the other, now the people of Houston know what they have.
Oh, yeah. I like when people show us who they are.
Exactly. That's, hey, you're exposed. And if you get reelected, well, we know what to think of Houston. My final thought is, don't be a stranger, Matt.
Right? I won't.
And we definitely want you back. And like I said, we're gonna rotate some guests through, and we look forward to it. Hey, if you like what you heard, or if you don't, go ahead and go to whatever platform you listen to us on, and rate us 5 stars. And write a review. And if you don't like it, it's Jessica at allongeorgia.com. For the temporarily stepping back Matt Lowe, Jessica Szilagyi, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Later.
Next week, we'll be posting Dave's phone number so you can sign him up for all the robocalls. Bye.